Hi everybody, and welcome to Traveling with Russell, and welcome to Moscow City. I'm right in the center of Moscow today, and I'm here at the Expo Center to make a interesting video about urban transport and what's new in the transport industry in Russia. And I'm really going to focus mostly on buses and commercial vehicles. So if that's interesting to you, stay tuned and watch the video. Hopefully you might see something different or learn something, or at least understand a little bit about Russia and the transport possibilities here in the country. Interestingly, this event actually combines two different expos together, one about commercial transport and one about urban transport, which is mostly buses and vehicles that the public would use. And it's not a particularly big expo. As I'm walking around, it's only in 9 convention halls, which for Moscow conventions, it's not particularly big. And most of this is all business to business and companies who are trying to find markets here in Russia, established companies that are already here, and they're also bringing new vehicles and current vehicles to try to find somebody to sell them to for obvious reasons. And it is very big when you walk around because of the trucks and the size of the vehicles. What I really want to show you is some of the buses, because I think for me that's more interesting. It's something that I catch more on a daily basis. I don't have a lot of knowledge of the trucks. However, it's pretty impressive to see them all here. As I walk around, I really want to show you the scale of these events and how big they are, and the fact that they bring all of the trucks and buses and commercial vehicles to these indoor events. And this really isn't designed for the general public. It's mostly for businesses to come and look for new vehicles, and even governments to come and expand the bus fleets or the truck fleets for the regions here in Russia. There is also an element of international companies that are here as well. Obviously China, being that it's a neighbor of Russia, is very heavily on show at this event. I did also notice some Turkish companies, Italian companies, so there's a bit of a mix of different brands that are here. So I hope it's interesting to show you, and there is something that you can take away from this, and the fact that despite all of the sanctions that are imposed on Russia and all of the challenges and difficulties of bringing products to Russia, or whether they're domestically manufactured, there is still an industry in Russia that thrives, and the wheels need to keep turning, as the very famous expression goes when you talk about trucks. As I walk around, I'm continuously amazed to see the amount of companies that are represented here and the different types of vehicles, both smaller, more commercial vehicles, and then the larger full-size trucks. So there's a mixture of companies that produce the actual truck bases themselves, like you see in front of me here, and then there's also companies that are building the bodies for the vehicles. So there's a bit of a combination of two different companies represented, and of course lots of different Chinese companies, Russian companies, and it's just so interesting to come to essentially what is a dealership expo of the different companies represented here. There is quite a lot of the actual manufacturers here who have their vehicles directly from the plants where they're manufactured, and then there is also the different dealerships who are selling vehicles on behalf of the certain manufacturers. And some have got very large build-outs and some are a little bit smaller. And what they do is they bring as many vehicles as they can in as many configurations as they can to give people that feeling of what is possible. And you can get as close as you like to the vehicles, you can climb in them, you can climb on them, and get as much information about them as you really want. if you're watching this and perhaps the business that you're in is to do with trucks and commercial vehicles, let me know if you recognize some of the models or brands. So even myself, I haven't seen all of these different vehicles, even here on the roads in Russia. There is, of course, an element of having Russian vehicles on the road locally that are produced here in Russia versus a lot of the imported products, mostly from China. Looks like Shaquille O'Neal has his trucks here at the event, Shackman, and I wonder if it's a play on words of Michael Jordan's Jumpman. I'm not too sure. I just find it an interesting name when I see it on the side of the trucks because I think of the famous basketballer before the actual brand. There is also some other commercial vehicles or forklift trucks. These front end telehandlers as well. Now there is a few different events that they hold in Russia throughout the year. This one is really focused on urban and commercial transport. And I did go to one back in summertime, which they predominantly hold outdoors, and it has a lot of the machinery for mining and oil and gas and different things like that. Whereas this one really is about the trucks and the commercial vehicles. One question I really do have for everybody watching and I'm curious about is when I see so many Chinese companies. Now, in Australia, as an example, we don't have any car or truck or vehicle manufacturing. We also don't even have any factories that produce tires and very few parts for vehicles. And we need to import foreign products to Australia, as an example. Whereas in Russia, there is manufacturing of all sorts of trucks and commercial vehicles. However, there isn't enough to support the economy and the market. So all of these different companies are necessary here in Russia to fulfill the needs of all the different companies. And is it really a problem that there is Chinese companies here in Russia? Of course, China is an immediate neighbor of Russia, so it's much easier to bring these straight across the border versus bringing them on the ship and sending them halfway around the world. Here is Photon. Now, I don't think I've seen this brand in Australia, if I'm not mistaken. However, the name Tundland is quite interesting. Toyota have the Tundra, so I wonder how similar it is and from what car it's taking inspiration from. If somebody maybe know the Photon brand, let me know. The other thing that you see on the road a lot in Russia is these smaller commercial trucks that are really used for delivering locally to businesses. And the fact that I show a lot of supermarkets and shopping centers in my videos, not every large truck can make it around these smaller roads here in Russia. So there's a lot of businesses here showing these smaller commercial trucks. This one called Forland. And they have a very big display here and quite a few different trucks in different types and formations. And there's so much curiosity about the different brands because people can come here to these sorts of events and see every manufacturer all in one building. If you've come across my videos and channel for the first time, I'm actually an Australian who lives here in Moscow, and I create content about normal, typical life living here in Russia and showing quite a variety of things. There is actually an entire playlist talking about the different expos that I attend. So I hope you find this interesting and future videos on the channel interesting. Yeah, if you want, you can subscribe to the channel. What I really wanted to show, as much as I can on this video, is to show some of the bus companies or commercial transport companies that are here. And there's a mixture of some Chinese companies, Russian companies, and then there's Belarus companies. Of course, 6 hours from where I'm standing is the border with Belarus. So it's a nice, easy trip across the border to bring these into Russia. So it's super interesting to see some Belarus companies represented. I think I need to go on board a few of these different buses, so let's go and have a look on this Belarus one. Now, what's very common in Russia, and I'm sure the same in Belarus, is they have a lot more of these smaller buses that are used for shorter bus routes, and not necessarily the bigger 50-seat buses and the more traditional ones. So these are designed for routes between smaller towns or micro districts. I like this orange color to it. It's got that it's a McLaren look. Very nice inside. These are very luxurious feeling, and the fact that these are really just normal everyday buses, they've got a certain feeling of luxury to them. So if you're going to take a bus trip, it's nice and comfortable. I don't know too many technical things about what we're seeing. However, the bus is very nice inside. There is quite a few different companies with the larger long distance buses, as I like to call them. And again, the Chinese companies dominate this market. The thing is, for different countries around the world, there's a simplicity to simply finding a manufacturer and supplier and buying them and then importing them to a different company or country. You know, so it's maybe difficult in some regions of the world to manufacture your own buses, but if you can literally find one and then import it, business is sorted. Hope that makes sense. So you don't have to create an entire industry in the country where you're from or where you live. You can simply import them and have them made to the specifications of that local market. I'm very curious when I think about the Australian market now and how many different bus companies that are represented, because I just don't think we have that many, and we don't have that much interest in the commercial transport industry in Australia, because perhaps the country's not big enough, or we don't have enough population that requires this many different types of buses. To be very honest, I've actually never caught any long distance buses before. I've only ever had a car in Australia or caught airplanes to different places, and long distance bus travel in Russia is possible, and it is very popular. And it also gives you a cheaper option for going between the cities, and for them to put these more comfortable buses on those routes, it just helps give people that variety of transport. These are very nice. These leather seats, perhaps, even a TV. They've got the seat numbers like the aeroplane. Very nice bus. Let's have a look at one of the Russian manufactured buses. This is called Volga bus, and this is quite interesting because it's a hybrid bus. So it has a combination of fuel and electric power. Now, before I head on inside, let me just point out here that there's actually one entrance for the driver on the right, and then an entrance for the passengers on the left. And you don't see that too often on Russian buses. Generally, this actual driver compartment's a little bit further over, and there's this narrow walkway to go inside, and then we actually see the main cabin of the bus, and very traditional looking interior of the bus. There's a lot of things that are designed around mobility, so you'll actually see the low rise chairs, and then even the buttons to stop the bus, and then there's a place here for wheelchairs and prams as well. Every bus has blue interiors. What's going on? There must be a promotion on the fabric in Russia. And then all of the batteries and the cells for the bus are at the back right here. Can't of course see that, but It's very nice to step on board a Russian-produced bus after seeing quite a lot of Chinese ones as I've been walking around. Of course, some of the components for the bus are from China. Things like the batteries, there's really no option for anybody around the world to avoid that. Nice big display here if the bus was in operation. I love these low sitting chairs. They're so easy for elderly people to sit down and just make it more comfortable. I think the name of the bus does give away where it's manufactured, in Volgograd. And then they also have on this middle door the fold-out ramp for wheelchairs and for children to board. And there is so much that goes into building these, and then the way that they design them around normal everyday use. They're building the buses for the public to ride them and to use them. And also the fact that it's hybrid, so they can actually switch over the power system on the bus, extends the range at the same time. Although in Russia with colder weather, battery power isn't as helpful because the batteries aren't really giving you long range in winter. However, in summertime, it'd be much easier for them just to pull into a depot and charge up and then keep on going on their routes. Volga Bus also has a long distance bus, which is pretty much the staple of their company. It's really interesting to talk to some of the different people that are involved in the different brands, and I learned so much very quickly, and to understand where they're made and how they're produced. And these are very well known in other cities, not in Moscow. That's why I said to the guy, I've not seen one of these, but yet they have them all over St. Petersburg. And then as we keep walking around, and we come to Simaz, which I think possibly is a Belarus company. I'll have to investigate a little bit more. It turns out Simaz is actually a Russian company, and these are produced and manufactured in Russia. And again, they've got these smaller buses, which are much more suited to smaller towns and cities all over Russia. And they've actually got the back door on these as well. Now, I'm not showing you anything groundbreaking. If you catch buses, maybe they look all alike to you. However, the different types and sizes of buses that they use here in Russia vary quite a lot depending on the size of the city and the route that you take. And you can see the idea behind this is to have more of these buses running more frequently and taking less people on them. The only thing that I'm not a fan of when it comes to these buses and all the different buses when I catch them in Russia is these rear-facing seats. I'd much rather sit forward-facing. Now, let me know in the comments if you have an opinion of that when you catch buses. I do like this back door here where it's actually wider and then designed for prams and wheelchairs, and it has a kneeling option so the bus can actually lower the hydraulics down to come closer to the road, and then it's much easier to board and then sit right here at the back and then press the bell to get off at a stop rather than having to climb up the steps in the front there. Where I live in Moscow region, there's quite a lot of these Golden Dragon buses that run in the southwest of Moscow. Now, there's a few different models on show here, and not too many people looking at them and climbing in them like some of the other brands. They have mostly long distance buses, particularly where I live, going to the southwest of Russia. These are a very popular option. The next company that I'm coming across here is called Haiga, and this is actually a Chinese company, and the logo is very similar to Hyundai. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong, how similar that looks. And they've got a few different models. I never knew that the spare wheel. He's kept in the front right here. You can see the storage for the spare wheel. And then they've got different models of the buses. I'd imagine this is their more traditional suburban bus. So you can see here on this one where the actual driver's cabin is enclosed and separated. And most of the buses, when you catch them in Moscow, you don't have interaction with the driver. You literally get on and off yourself, and you can pay your fare with a fare reader as you get on the bus. Here we go. Here's some grey interior. This is actually very nice. This finish inside. And then as I turn around, you can see again these low-rise seats on the front section of the bus. And then for prams and wheelchairs right here. And then everyone else can sit on these higher position chairs. This is one of the brands that I really want to have a look at and show. And this is Gaz. Now, a lot of people would call some of the different models Gazelle. And these are all produced in Nizhny Novgorod. Not sure if they've got a factory somewhere else. And these are probably the most known and most common forms of transport here in Moscow and Moscow region and all over Russia. And these smaller, more suburban sized buses. Let's see if we can have a look on board one of these Gazelles. And these new models, I'm so jealous that I can get to come on board the brand new one, because in a couple hours from now I'll have to catch the old model home. And actually when you get on board you can tap your card for payment right here. And these are designed again around short trip bus routes. And where I live in Moscow region, these are definitely the buses that I catch. Now the model that I catch actually has a seat right here, and now they've got no seat option. So I wonder, maybe this is a newer model. So it's super interesting. And then as I come backwards out of the bus, it's then also got the ramp right here for wheelchairs and prams, if people want to use them and catch the buses that way, which is super nice, especially depending on the roads that they're riding on. They also have a slightly bigger version and maybe more luxurious. I'm not sure. Let's have a look. Yes, this is definitely much more fancier. It's got this hard-wearing flooring and these velour seats. That's the right word. Man, if this was on my route home today, I'd be catching the bus twice per day. Actually, have a look. It's even got CarPlay right there, or is it Bus Play? You can see all the options. And then this has got the front seat right here. So you can have a passenger next to the driver. And then there's also the controls there for the screen. I don't think we'd have time to watch a movie catching this bus home. But how nice is this inside? Let me know in the comments if you do catch public transport. Do you catch the bigger, more traditional sized buses? Or where you live, do they have these smaller, shorter buses for shorter routes and also lower capacity as well? And the idea again is that they can have more of these buses running more frequently. Not too sure what you'd put here. Maybe this is for luggage, perhaps. It's got a rear seat. This is super comfy. Have a look in here. Now there's only a few seats though, so it would get full very, very fast. However, it's definitely very nice inside. It's really interesting, this part of the Expo with all of the Gazelle models and all the different types of them that they've got running down this whole left-hand side. And then directly opposite, they've got Maz. So it's Gaz versus Maz. And these are vehicles from Belarus. And this is kind of the direct competition if you like. Of course, these are the trucks that they've got on display here. But I just like the fact that they're facing off with each other. Although really they're neighbors at the same time. These are some big trucks they've got on display though. I think we have to have a look at this trolley bus that they've got right here. Because I think a lot of people from around the world perhaps think that trolley buses are being phased out. However, in Russia and in Belarus and other countries, they're still being produced and made. And there's a brand new one that we can go and have a walk around and have a look inside and show you what a trolley bus looks like. Now, from the outside, it really does look like a traditional bus. There isn't a lot of differences. Most of the technology of the bus is actually up on the roof, which we can't necessarily see from here. Again, you've got this separated door, so the driver has his own entrance, which is nice, I think, if that's a thing. And then coming on inside, again, we see this traditional interior with this blue finish. Oh, the seats are nice and padded too. And then there's a mixture of the high-rise seats and the low-rise seats. And this is purely for mobility. You can actually see also under the seats right here, there's actually the heaters. And especially now in winter, it's an absolute must that you've got climate control in the buses. So air conditioning in summer, and then the heating in winter. So when it's -10 or -20 outside, you can feel very comfortable catching these buses. Plenty of different seat variations. I'm not a big fan of that rear-facing seat. However, it seems to be a thing on the buses here. There's some gentlemen enjoying themselves, waiting for the bus to take them back to the city. I'm not too sure when this one will leave. Again, let me know in the comments if perhaps you've been on a trolley bus before, or maybe in your past you remember catching one or riding one. Because I think living here in Russia, it's so fascinating to see and be able to ride so many different types of public transport. And you could literally ride 6 different types of public transport only in Moscow, which is so interesting, from cable cars to electric buses to trams to metros. And living in this city, it's so diverse, the different types of public transport that they offer. I really do hope you're finding this as interesting as I am, walking around this transport expo and showing some of the different types of public transport. And it's something a little bit different, perhaps from your previous video you might have watched on this channel. So I like to mix it up a little bit from time to time. And even for me, it's just interesting to come and see the different forms of transport here in Russia. I don't want to make my videos too complicated, because even I don't understand some of the technologies. However, these 2 buses that are literally right at the entrance where I first walked in are the newest models of the Gaz or Gazelle bus range. And I thought that they were LNG, which I know as liquefied natural gas, but they're CNG, compressed natural gas. If you know what that is, let me know in the comments, because I was trying to understand what they were explaining to me, but I fully couldn't comprehend it. I need to go home and read up about it a little bit more. But let's have a look at the brand new bus. Now there is a few people waiting to go home. Balashika? At the Balashika? Balashika. Let's have a look around. So the one thing when you get on again, so the driver's cabin is enclosed, so you literally have the payment system here on the side, and you tap your card for payment. It's completely cashless. And then you've got these seats for the elderly or ladies with children, and these nice low rise seats. You can see the heaters right there. They've also got the charging ports. Very nice buses. And then when you actually board from the back of the bus, You've actually got the payment tap and go right here as well. More people waiting for the bus. And then again, they've got the area here for wheelchairs and prams and different things like that. Very nice buses. Again, everybody's going with this blue interior. There must be somebody in Russia who is getting very rich selling blue fabric. If you can tell me who that is? All of the secret millionaires in Russia are in the business that we never realize. Not only is this event about the transport and the trucks and buses, there is actually 2 entire halls of companies that are producing the parts or accessories for the vehicles and different components that make up what you would put onto things like trucks and buses. Even oil companies are here as well. And then there seems to be an increase in the amount of companies that are producing vehicle transporters. And of course, with a lot of the car companies leaving Russia, there's still a need to bring cars into Russia. So there is a number of companies as I've walked around that are showing these particular machines. There is one other company. I've got one last thing to show you, and it's actually in the next hall. And there's a company as I was walking around earlier called Oz1, and it means Australia One. And it's actually a tire manufacturer that's producing tires in Thailand primarily. Lots of happy people. And just the fact that it has Australia in the name was something that drew my attention to it. Now, we don't produce tires in Australia whatsoever, but the company was founded quite a lot of years ago by perhaps some Australian people or some guys who realized there's a big hole in the tire market in Australia. So Oz1 tires are here in Russia. If you're watching the channel or if you're watching videos and you're from Russia, this might be very interesting. Now, I did pass this booth quite a little bit earlier today when I first came here, and they've actually got a Lada booth. And the Lada section here has just the regular passenger cars, and they do actually have a couple of their smaller work cars. However, they've got a electric Lada here. Now, this will actually come out in the first quarter of 2025, and this is the e-largus or the Lada Largus electric. And I was hoping that the hood was actually up and we could actually have a little bit of a look inside at the components. Now, I'm not very technologically minded. However, an electric Lada is coming to Russia. They do have some of the other models here as well. And these are all the ones that are in normal production at the local Lada dealership. And perhaps they're already working on it, or at least looking at it and talking about it. But it's so interesting to come to a bus and truck expo and to see Lada sitting right here. And this is their other new model. This is actually a petrol model called the Lada Aura. It's got this matte finish to it, and hopefully they don't close the door on me. And we're going to have a little of a look inside just quickly and have a look. They've got the TV screen there. This is actually an automatic as well. And is this the Lada that you're used to seeing? I don't think so. Let me know in the comments. And the staff here said I had to look in the back of the car and have a look at how much space is in here. This is really a luxury Lada, let's call it that. It's got the fold down armrest there for your drinks. It's got a charging port. This is not the Lada that you would expect to see, and this is their newest model. Let's have a look at this electric Lada one more time. This Largus E, and it's actually got the charging port right there. So I'm pretty sure this is a third-party charger that they're using that you can plug into. And then the plug right on the side. How cool is this? Can we open the door? I think we can. Yes. Electric windows. There's airbags. Russian cars do have technology in them, despite everybody telling me otherwise. It's a very nice car. I mean, I'm not giving you any technical specifications because that's not what I do on the channel, you know that. But I wonder, even for Russians watching this video and have made it to the end, did you know that there's going to be an electric Lada coming very soon? Along with the Lada e-largus is the Lada Granta, and this is the more commercial side of the vehicles that they produce. And interestingly here they've got the Carrier brand air conditioning unit on top, and this is designed around transporting goods, things like food and products to shops. And actually they've got the flowers in the back here, and they've actually got the air conditioner or the cooler running for the flowers on display. And this is the more traditional Lada cars that you'd be used to seeing. These are very commonly available in the dealerships in Russia. Very nice. As I leave the Lada display behind me, I really hope you found this video interesting. If you'd like me to make videos at any certain car dealerships, let me know. I can definitely go and search them out in Moscow and make a video of that. If you liked the video, you can give it a thumbs up. I ended up with a goodie bag from one of the stands as I was walking around. Post a comment, let me know what you think. This is literally the last 10 minutes of the expo. You can see how dark it's got in here now. And I'm gonna go and grab my jacket and head on home. If you want to follow me on Telegram, there's a link right here. You can click that. I did post a few photos from today as well. And if you want to see an old video, I'm going to put a very interesting car manufacturing video for you to watch right here. And I'm pretty sure most people haven't seen it before. Okay, everybody, I'm off on another adventure. Bye.